Hi, folks. This is sharing some more thinking out loud and inevitably more thinking out loud about the impact of AI on workplace learning. This is because doing some writing a report about the subject, and this is sort of some side thinking that's not in that report, but yeah, sort of had some very interesting conversations which led me to this. And firstly, an apology and an admission that this is another quote, and I've stolen this quote, but I don't know who from. I've not been able to attribute this. Someone said, or I read somewhere, I think last year, stating that AI has not disrupted the education system; it has revealed it. And I think the same is true of workplace learning. As I said, I'm not sure who said that. If it was you, apologise. Let me know. Oh, my apologies rather. Let me know. And if you know who it was, then do let me know as well. So really, the point here, I think, is that AI is having I think, quite a significant impact, or starting to have quite a significant impact on how the workplace learning industry is structured, but it's not a transformative impact as yet, anyway. So I think we're seeing, this is perhaps unsurprising and well documented, perhaps, the impact of task automation from generative AI as it stands. We're seeing the benefit of that in the form of efficiency. So, more quicker and potentially cheaper, or at least more quicker and for a similar price or a similar cost. Um, and that's partly because design and deliver is the preoccupation of the industry. Making and distributing learning is kind of what most of the industry is for. And very, very simply put, whether that should be true or not, I don't know. Perhaps not, but that's the current mode of operation and the mode of production. And AI is very well suited to that. We've got learning tends to be packaged in pretty sort of straightforward, predictable patterns in terms of e-learning and digital learning, and potentially perhaps even instructor-led learning tends to have similar formats, similar for structures, so relatively easy to predict and therefore relatively straightforward to automate. Relatively, I say, content creation, content discovery, and distribution are being transformed by efficiency if the value isn't necessarily being transformed. So further automation on the way, I guess, as well. There's the promise of agentic AI. There's a lot of claims of agentic AI and AI agents. Actually, I don't believe that's necessarily the case. I think to sort of more thorough definition may see those as AI assistants, but the promise of, I suppose, objective following AI tools that can take decisions and manage processes is certainly on the way. So more of that efficiency, I think, is to be expected. I think it's pretty hard to know though what comes after the course. If there is an after the course, and how does that get funded? So I think the buying and funding, of outputs is the economic model for learning largely. The learning and development teams are set up to, manage, make, distribute, and assign learning. Can they be revived as some kind of performance service and invested in that respect from a corporate perspective? Content as an input to a solution rather than being consumed as the solution or as part of the solution feels like a very, very different way of valuing content commercially as well. So I think there's some interesting and pretty fundamental questions at play about the kind of economic and commercial value of learning. If it becomes a service to buy or if it becomes a service to manage internally, then how's that structured? How's it funded, and to what value and what output? Currently, I suppose we see software licensing, content subscription, the commissioning of solutions or content or programs tend to be the revenue models, or the commercial structures, I guess, for learning services. How might that change? Could that be performance based? Is there some kind of self-service model that can be facilitated? And can perhaps sort of facilitation and community hosting, around learning activity become a source of value as well? I think there's some really important questions about what that transformed state might look like. I don't think we know. I don't think anybody knows at the moment. I don't think anybody knows how to price these things, let alone how to buy them. But I think we're starting to see some of these transformative questions poking through, as we've seen the sort of this revelation of the production and design processes being quite extensively automated. And the uptake of that taking place quite quickly now. Anyway, so that's my more thinking out loud. Please let me know if this is your quote, and also let me know what you think. Are these other sources of funding viable? Are people ready to buy in that way? And do you think that the vendor market is ready to sell as well? So those are the questions on my mind as I think out loud again about AI this week. But thank you for listening if you did, and let me know what you think.